BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
play BBC Radio Bristol,
and on your radio.
The sound of where we live is
BBC Radio Bristol.
We like to put the spotlight on different charities or community groups, people who are doing good things here in the West Country, to meet some of the team, to get to know who some of the people are behind what's going on, to hear about what help might be out there, to hear about the impact it's having, so the difference it's making, and also if you would like to get involved and help, what you could do, how you can be a part of it. So today, I'm really pleased to say that we've got three of the team joining us from Weston-Super-Mare Foodbank. We are joined by Imelda, Frederique and Clive. Imelda's a volunteer, Frederique's project manager, and Clive is chair of trustees. Welcome to the three of you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Good morning.
Nice to have you here. Frederique, if I can start with you as project manager, can you just sum up? I think many of us now are familiar with food banks. Some people listening might well have used them. Just tell us what it is that you do at Weston-Super-Mare Foodbank.
Okay, so our food bank started in 2011, and the main vision is really to help people in need in our community with access to food. So we are part of the Trussell Trust network of food banks, and in Weston we have a centre in the town centre and also in a couple of other pick-up points where people can come and collect a food parcel. And they'll have been referred to us by an agency, so that could be the local council or Citizens Advice or a school.
So 2011, so you've been going 10 years then as a team there?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
brilliant.
We had our 10 years. So we were starting by a couple, and then I took over in 2016.
Okay, we'll hear a little bit more about this and about how each of you ended up being involved in the food bank as well. As well as the talking and that side of things, the playlist that you pick is also really key. The six songs that you've joined us with this morning. So let me ask you, Frederique, how was it coming up with the 6 songs?
So I actually sent a message around to everyone in the food bank, so all our 50 volunteers, our trustees, and some of our close sort of friends of the food bank, and said, could you suggest some songs that sort of represent the work we do? And this is how this came about. So some are quite personal to individuals, some are more visionary, and yeah.
Okay, well, look, let's begin, shall we? Because I know how this goes. Time flies by. And you've picked a cracker to start off with. You've asked for Firework by Katy Perry. Talk to us about who picked this one, Frederique, and what it is about this song.
So this song was chosen by Jane. Jane volunteers with us in the town centre on a Wednesday and in the warehouse on a Friday. And when she came up with that song, I thought it was quite an odd choice. I would not have thought about it. And then she said the words are so relevant. And if you read if you listen to the first chorus, she says, do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? Do you ever feel so paper thin? Do you ever feel already buried deep? And it's the kind of feeling that we see day in, day out from like the clients we encounter, people who really felt like they've got that they are very deep, that they've got no hope. And then she goes, do you know that there's still a chance for you because there's a spark in you? And that really is what we want to get through, in the work we do. It's not just giving the food, but actually sort of try to help people to reignite that spark and keep going.
Right, so between now and 12 o'clock then, hearing from some of the team who are part of Weston-Super-Mare Foodbank, which is part of the wider Trussell Trust network of food banks, which until I was preparing for this conversation, I didn't actually realise that the couple behind it, who set up the Trussell Trust in the late 90s, their UK projects actually began in the West Country, in Salisbury. So there we go, you learn something every day. Imelda, let me come to you. I know you're one of the volunteers with the team, aren't you? And I just wonder what it's like. Here I am playing lots of lovely Christmas music and talking about all the nice things that I've been fortunate enough to do. What's it like at the food bank at the moment, being Christmas, which is an exciting time, but also a tricky time, and also with COVID and the kind of changing news in the background? Yeah, how is it?
So, yeah, it is. It's very, very busy, but we expected that because of everything that has been happening. As you said, with COVID and everything, we expected lots more people coming in. And then coming up to Christmas, people need a lot more stuff. They've got a lot more expenses and things like that going on. So it makes it a little bit difficult for them with food. So yes, we're there to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. Clive or Frederique, perhaps you, Clive, because we haven't heard from you yet, but how are you sort of dealing with the changing advice that's going out there, and also knowing that more than ever their finances are pinched, especially at the moment, but there's a pressure to do something really nice because it's Christmas?
I believe the scale of the challenge is significant at the moment. And some of the changes that have happened, such as the reduction in universal credit, that affects almost 10,000 families in Weston-Super-Mare, that sort of thing, that's taken their income down by about £1,000 a year. That has a really strong negative effect. And
do you see that? Clive, can I ask, in terms of, I haven't heard that particular figure, but do you notice this then in terms of what you do and the numbers of people who come to you for help?
Absolutely. Frederique had provided the numbers for the first week in November, which is just after the changes have been introduced. 173 people referred to us for emergency food supplies. And I think while I've been involved for the last 4 years, the numbers have been going up by about 1,000 a year. Last year it was just under 7,000 people we were supporting. And if we saw the November figure multiplied, we'll be getting higher than that over this full year. So that's a significant change. And these are people facing a degree of crisis. It's some sort of crisis in their life that would have led to them being referred to the food bank. Often physical health, mental health. It could be loss of employment and sometimes a relationship breakdown. And under those circumstances, we want to do something that begins to show a way forward, that introduces hope in place of despair and helps people see, yes, there can be a route through. But at that point of crisis, we're providing food. And at Christmas, we try to add some extras, and the community is really generous in terms of what they provide for us to pass on to people in need.
That's so good to hear. I wonder, in the time, just sort of reflecting on this and thinking about that figure, do you think that you become more established the longer something is around, that more people know that they can refer to you? Or I also wonder, has there been a shrinking of the other networks of support that could help people as well over the time? Just trying to understand the figure increasing and other factors that could be part of it too.
Well, first of all, our desire is not to be needed. We don't want to exist, but for the best of reasons, that we aren't required. But certainly through the COVID pandemic, a number of organisations have very much moved online or onto the phone to contact. And throughout that, because of what we do, we've needed to be available face-to-face for people to collect emergency food.
Yes.
So it may be our visibility is higher because we've continued to operate that face-to-face contact, even if we have moved it outside the building under a shelter and behind masks.
Yeah, well done, everyone. The logistics of all of this. Imelda, let me come to you, and you're going to talk to us about the second song choice, Driving Home for Christmas by Chris Rea. So talk to me about this particular selection, if you would.
Okay, this one was chosen by quite a number of our volunteers. They all seem to like this one, but it's a special mention to our drivers, Paul, Clive, Simon and Dave, and any of the others who help with the collections and drop-offs. So basically they're collecting and delivering 4 days a week, 52 weeks a year, and they travel between our warehouse and our centres and then all the donating supermarkets and organisations. So they move tons of food every year. So this is kind of a tribute to them.
Okie doke. So we've got Imelda, Frederique and Clive with us. Imelda's a volunteer, Frederique is project manager, and Clive is chair of trustees. Frederique, let me come to you actually for our next part of the conversation. And I'm just curious to know, so you're involved as the project manager and have been for a little while. What was it about this particular role and charity? Why did you want to get involved with it?
So I came to the food bank in a bit of a random kind of way. I'd always been interested, and in my previous sort of role, I worked for an organisation supporting charities generally and the third sector. And one of my roles was actually to advertise job descriptions and job And I received this on my email one day, and I saw it, and I then sort of sent it to my husband and said, "What do you think of this?" And he said, "That's got your name on it." And, and this is how I came about. But it was, the working with volunteers, working with people who are giving their time for free to make a difference. It's just nothing like it. There is no better place to be than to make a difference every day. We see people day in, day out, from all walks of life, families, little children come to the food bank with their families, and you can just make them smile, but also as a group to be together and to know that each one has got such a vital role, whether they're the packers, the people in the warehouse who are marking tins after tins after tins with the best before dates, and also the link with the community. We're just so blessed to have a community around us, from the supermarkets, the churches, the schools, the individuals, people who just one day decide that they're going to do something for us. It's unbelievable. And certainly COVID really showed that when we thought we'd have no food left.
Has it strengthened your sense of community, your feeling of what community can do with a strong purpose?
Oh, absolutely. Just every time we think, are we going to do this, something comes about. And certainly, the first few weeks of COVID, we started packing emergency boxes to place them in various locations. But that emptied our shelves, and where we normally would have had a supply for about a few months, we were looking at empty shelves. And that was at the time when, everyone was panic buying, and supposedly you couldn't get food in the supermarket. And then people started donating, from what little they could buy, people would still bring to us. We had people saying, I bought 2 boxes of cereals because I could, and there's one for you, there's one for us. And people doing street collections and all these things that just really blew us away. And we ended up, coming out of the first wave with more food than we'd ever had in store.
I can see why it's good to be part of it. Imelda, can I ask you the same question? So you are one of the people who's giving your time for free to get involved and do this. Why did you want to be a part of it?
Well, I had been working full-time, and I decided I wanted to just do something volunteer in Weston when I moved here. And I saw an advert for the food bank and thought, I didn't realise we had food banks. I thought we live in one of the richest countries in the world. So I just decided, this is what I wanted to do, and had my interview and got it. And I'm just so pleased that it happened. It's, as Frederique said, there's nothing like it, being able to make a difference, work with other volunteers. They're like-minded, and it kind of gives a sense of purpose to what we're doing. So my feeling is that I'm not just helping others, it comes back to me as well. I just feel really good as well, so it benefits both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So Imelda, there you mentioned a sense of purpose is what it gives you, that message coming through. Clive, what about you and your involvement?
I've always chosen to engage in volunteering in some form or another, and when I was asked if I would engage with Weston Foodbank, I spent some time to consider it and decided, yes, that's somewhere where I might be useful. It needs all sorts of different skills to keep the organisation running well, and some of those are business and operating skills that the trustees seek to bring. It's a charity with a significant value in terms of what it does, and that needs to be well managed, complying with the law. So I've been pleased to be able to work in that way, even if I'm less used packing up bags and giving them to people on the front line.
Like you say, though, that range of skills is crucial. That's what you need in the team. Clive, can you talk to us about the song that I'm going to play next, God of the Poor by Graham Kendrick?
Yes, Jenny and Don have asked for the song God of the Poor. And it's interesting that volunteers with food banks come from all faiths and none, with that common factor of a desire to help people change their lives for the better. And emergency food is part of that. Jenny and Don went to Thailand a few years ago and ran a holiday camp for 200 orphaned children there.
Wow.
And they used this song as an illustration of their experience when they came back. And it says something about the ethos that we would want to demonstrate at the food bank. It's about changing the bad elements of people's lives into something good. It speaks of justice, joy, peace, compassion, rights for the weak. It speaks of hope for despair, and encompasses much that Christmas is about as well.
From BBC Radio Bristol.
Laura Rawlings, BBC Radio Bristol.
So between now and 12, we're focusing on Weston-Super-Mare Foodbank, hearing from some of the team who are a part of it, who help to keep it running. We've been hearing so far about having a space in the town centre. They've also got some pick-up points as well. It's been going for 10 years. It's all about providing access to food to people who find themselves in some kind of crisis. And I'm pleased to say that we're joined by Frederique, who's project manager, Clive, who's chair of trustees, and Imelda, who is a volunteer. Let's talk about some of the people who you get to help, who you see, and you mentioned, young and old. I think you said, Frederique, some of the children you've been helping. So tell us about who's coming, Frederique.
So the biggest change, certainly since I've been there, is that we are seeing more and more families, and particularly the large families. When I first started, the main base of our sort of clients were single men, whereas now we do see that more than a third of the people we support are actually children. And I just looked actually at, just in December so far, we've had 559 people, but 238 of them were children. And that is just really, heartbreaking, really, to know that out of our community, so many children are already being brought up and living in poverty. And one of the things that we really worry about is the impact for their future and how we can sort of, make a small difference into helping.
Yeah, I wonder what's behind that. Is that about changes in the support that's available for bigger families?
I think there's all sorts of circumstances. Just Friday we met a lady whose partner had died, and suddenly she was there with 5 children coming to Christmas.
Oh my goodness.
To a real difficult situation. We've met people with financial issues, businesses that had gone. The variety of circumstances is just incredible. We know that certainly the access to the universal credit is one big thing, but it's just the circumstances. And you mentioned earlier about the awareness, and certainly we know that also schools are so much more tuned in to what's happening and looking at supporting families. And so they are one of our now biggest referral agencies sort of system.
So do you see, I guess, if you're a single parent and you've got young children, then yes, you are seeing the children. They're coming as well, unless they're at school.
Yeah, so we do see them, not always, and certainly at the moment, because we've been giving for Christmas, we do give gifts. So if the children are there, we try very hard to put them in bags and, hide them away. But yes, we do see children across when they're not at school or when they're so young, or during COVID, when they were on lockdown. And for some people, I suppose it was a chance of seeing a face was to come and see us. And
yeah, absolutely. Maybe one of the few contact points, like you say, when you still get to see someone in person. Imelda, I wonder from some of the people that you've met over the time that you've been volunteering, I don't know how much time you get to talk to anyone, but I'm guessing there will be some familiar faces to you and you do get to know people.
I don't often do front of house, but I meet some people when the donations are coming in, and it's especially, people who we've helped previously, and then they come back to donate themselves. And that I just find wonderful, because it's, we've helped people to get through their kind of difficulties, and then they in turn want to help others. So that is absolutely fabulous, and it's really nice to know that they've kind of been able to move to the next step.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Should we play another song? So we've got 3 more to get in between now and 12. And Imelda, I know you're going to introduce this one. It's "Smile" by Nat King Cole. Who picked this one, and what was in their mind when they did?
This one was picked by Mandy, and Mandy works on our front of house on Fridays, and she's just excellent with the people who come to the door. It's mainly the first verse that Mandy has kind of said is the thing for us. It's representative of the ways our clients, but also our volunteers feel when they're confronted with stories of hopelessness, fear and stress day in, day out. And just a smile can make a huge difference in someone's life.
And actually, it's a really good point and something I was wondering and would like to ask you about. And that is about making it friendly. Someone comes along for the first time, might be feeling all sorts of different things, but I'm guessing some people fear that they're going to be judged, maybe quite embarrassed that they've ended up in that sort of scenario. I wonder how are you doing that? How do you do your best to kind of create that sort of space where, and it's also challenging to smile under a mask, but how you do make a space that is COVID safe, sorts all of the logistics, but also welcomes people and hopefully puts them at ease when they come and join you. Frederique, what sort of thinking goes into that?
So pre-COVID, we used to welcome people inside in a not quite cafe-style environment, but we would have had tables and the volunteers would actually sit with the clients and offer them a drink, and we'd have biscuits on the table and we'd just chat with them and see beyond the food need what else sort of, try to signpost, try to have conversations that were as normal as could be. And for many people, having a chance to be listened to, what, is such a precious thing. COVID has made it very difficult for us that we have been working for a sort of outside service. So we actually put some tables out and we serve outside. Over time, every few weeks, we review it and think, what can we do? Every time we've come out of a wave, we thought, maybe we can start bringing people in. But as time goes on, we're still outside. The biggest change is we've put a canopy, so at least we're not getting drenched, and the clients are not getting drenched when it's raining.
Yes.
But it's about, trying to just say, hello, how are you, and also listen. So the food parcels are prepared in advance, but we have a bit of a checklist, and we try to offer other things that we think and will make a difference. And we know that just sometimes, being offered washing up liquid or simple things will at least break that pattern. And through Christmas, we are giving out, in Weston, actually, we've been given some food vouchers as well, so people can go and buy their own thing.
You get choice over it, yeah.
Yes, giving them that sort of dignity and the sort of choice and the, saying, actually, this is your choice. We give you this, but now go and choose something. And we've had amazing donation. Someone gave us £3,500 worth of vouchers to pass on. And that blessing gives us that choice. But yes, if we are not busy and if we see someone wants to have a little bit of a chat, we do sometimes just go on the side and have a little chat with them, or we just find little ways. The volunteers have got years of experience, so they always find a way to connect with people and provide that little personal touch.
And in terms of, we've touched a lot and talked the difference that it's making, and I think we've got a good sense of, well, the sort of tip of the iceberg in terms of the scale of the problem from what you and Clive have been saying. But I wonder about, about the difference that you feel, whether it's from the feedback that some people have shared with you, maybe some who've turned into, giving donations now. Clive, shall I ask you that question in terms of the impact and the difference that it's making?
The intention is we provide emergency food whilst the underlying causes are being addressed. So agencies that refer people to us, we expect and hope are addressing the need that's caused that crisis.
Yeah.
So we don't expect to see the same people month after month, although some people can have a further crisis that follows up. There are some wonderful stories from people who have found that change, often coming with a sense of embarrassment to have to seek help, but who then found they're welcomed, they're accepted and valued as individuals. And if we can do just a little bit to help people find some hope and a way forward, that's great. And when those people do come back to us and can actually donate, that, I believe, gives some pride back to the individual as well, that they can see how they can be a contributor. We have thousands of people across the community around Weston them that are donating food, each one wanting to make a difference in people's lives. So it's great to see the way the community supports the community. And the food bank is just a means of getting the food through.
Well, that leads us very well on to our next song, our fifth track, which I know you're going to introduce for us, Clive, Harvest for the World. And we've got the Christians version.
Indeed it is. And this is suggested by another Jenny M this time. You don't have to be called Jenny to volunteer at the food bank, but it obviously helps. And she's one of our longest standing volunteers. And with some 14 million people living in food poverty in the UK, in one of the richer economies within the world, it's good to see people acting to change those circumstances. Marcus Rashford has been active. The Trussell Trust constantly acts on that with its vision, Stop UK Hunger. So that's where we want to be part of that process and give the route by which others in the community can do the same.
Time to return to our team. With us we have Imelda, Frederique and Clive. They're all part of Weston-Super-Mare Foodbank. We've been getting to know them and hearing about the work of the charity, plus their excellent song suggestions which were picked by many of the different volunteers involved in the food bank. Frederique, just as our last couple of minutes together, I think it would be good to be able to let people know either how they access the support that you offer, or if there's anyone listening who would like to get involved in whatever way, how they go about doing it. So what would you say?
So if you need support from a food bank, if you feel that you are in food need, please speak to your school, Citizens Advice, or if you are supported by any agency like a housing agency or homeless services, there are so many agencies that can issue a food voucher. There is also a national helpline which was set up by Trussell Trust and Citizens Advice, and the number is 0808 208 2138, and they can give you some signposting but also help with a food bank voucher to access your local food bank.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about Weston, but there's our friends from Clevedon, in Highbridge, in Burnham, Portishead, Nailsea, so they have got their own setup as well, but the referral would work across the network. And if you want to help a food bank, again, get in touch with your local food bank. We've all got slightly different needs over time. Look on our social media. In Weston, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got Twitter, and we've got a website. And again, our colleagues do a similar setup. Get in touch, ask what we need at that particular time, because it can always change slightly. Although tinned potatoes and hot chocolate seem to be an ongoing need for us. If you'd like to volunteer, get in touch probably after Christmas now, after the New Year, so that we can sort of see where the needs are. We've got a warehouse and we've got front of house sort of and packing roles that might be needing filling up by the New Year. And yes, just come and see if you can join this merry band of volunteers. They're all amazing. And, certainly I'd like to use the opportunity to say, thank you and Merry Christmas to everyone who's helped the food bank in any way this past 12 months.
Yeah, happy Christmas and well done, one and all. Okay, well, look, we've got a couple of minutes left, so we're going to squeeze in a snippet of your sixth song suggestion. Frederique, coming to you for this one, Lad Baby and Ed Sheeran and Elton John on this.
Yeah, so this was an obvious one. So the song only came out a couple of days ago. It's the fourth year that Lad Baby has released a song for Christmas. It's always themed around sausage rolls. Not really sure why and where this came about, but all the profits of the songs will go to the Trussell Trust. So, they are making year in, year out an amazing difference, giving the Trussell Trust the resources to continue the work, to support the food banks across the land. There's 1,200 food banks that are supported by Trussell Trust across the UK. So that kind of, every time you download this song, you will make a difference as well.
Okie-ko. Well, look, thank you to the three of you for coming on and spending some of your Sunday morning and talking about the work and volunteering that you're doing. So Imelda, Frederique and Clive, all the very best to you. Happy Christmas, onwards and upwards for 2022 and the food bank. And let's play this last song for you.